The sound of ripping fabric echoed through the crowded hallway like a gunshot. Emma Collins stood frozen, her white dress torn from shoulder to waist, exposing her sports bra underneath. 200 students watched. 200 phones recorded. But Emma didn't cry. She didn't scream. She didn't run. Instead, her eyes went cold as winter frost. Derek Matthews, star quarterback of Westfield High, stepped back with a satisfied smirk, holding a piece of her dress like a trophy. Not so high and mighty now. Are you? That's when everything changed. Emma's stance shifted. Her breathing slowed. Her hands rose into a position that made Coach Williams, watching from his office doorway, mutter a single word. Shit. The new girl wasn't just new. She was dangerous. If you're feeling that rush of what's going to happen next, hit that like button. It really helps more people discover these stories. And if you want to share where you're watching from, drop it in the comments below. For those who want to support more stories like this one, there's a thanks button right under this video. Every contribution, no matter how small, helps me bring you more inspiring tales of courage and standing up for what's right. Thank you for being here. Now, let's see what happens when push comes to shove. 3 weeks earlier, Emma had been nobody. Just another transfer student trying to disappear into the background of her new Dallas high school. She'd moved here with her mother after everything fell apart in California. The empty cardboard boxes still sat in her room, and she hadn't had the energy to unpack them. Why bother? Nothing felt permanent anymore. This is our fresh start, her mother had said, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. They both knew the real reason for the move. The drunk driver who'd taken her father had also taken their ability to stay in their old home. Too many memories, too much pain. Emma touched the black belt folded carefully in her suitcase. Her father's black belt. "I won't let you down, Dad," she whispered to his photograph. Former Marine, sensei, hero, gone. Westfield High School stood like a fortress of red brick and privilege. The parking lot was filled with BMWs and lifted trucks. The sign at the entrance read, "Home of the Warriors," in bold letters, and underneath, smaller text bragged about their 3 state championships in football. Emma pulled her second-hand Honda into the only empty spot, way in the back corner. Even the parking spaces here had a hierarchy. She felt the eyes on her the moment she stepped out, not because she was particularly beautiful or particularly ugly. She was just new. And in a school like Westfield, new meant entertainment. Derek Matthews noticed her first. Of course he did. Derek noticed everything that might affect his kingdom. 6'2", built like he was born in a gym, with that specific kind of confidence that came from never hearing the word no. He sat on the hood of his cherry-red Camaro, surrounded by his usual crew. Tyler Bennett on his right, all muscle and no brain. Brandon Chen on his left, smart enough to be dangerous, but too weak to be anything but a follower. "Fresh meat alert," Tyler announced, nudging Derek. Derek's eyes tracked Emma as she walked toward the main entrance. She moved differently than the other girls, not the practiced sway of someone trying to be noticed, but the careful steps of someone who'd learned to be aware of her surroundings. Military kid, he guessed. They always had that look. "Dibs," Derek said simply. Brandon laughed. "Like you need to call dibs. When have you ever not gotten what you wanted?" Never, Derek thought. And he wasn't about to start now. Emma made it through her first 3 classes without incident. She sat in the middle rows, not too close to seem eager, not too far back to seem troubled. She took notes. She avoided eye contact. She'd perfected the art of being invisible in her last 2 schools. But invisible didn't work at Westfield. The cafeteria was a minefield of social dynamics. Every table had its designation. Athletes here, theater kids there, honors students by the windows, and various other tribes scattered throughout. Emma grabbed a tray and headed for an empty table in the corner. She made it 3 bites into her sandwich before the shadow fell across her tray. "Hey, beautiful, I'm Derek Matthews." Emma looked up. At her old school, she might have smiled politely, maybe even been flattered. But something in Derek's eyes reminded her of a predator sizing up prey. Her father had taught her to recognize that look. "Nice to meet you," she said carefully. "I really need to get to class, though." She stood up, leaving her half-eaten lunch. Derek's hand shot out, not quite touching her, but blocking her path. "Class doesn't start for 20 minutes. Sit. Let me welcome you to Westfield properly." "Thank you, but I need to find my next classroom." Emma stepped around him. The cafeteria had gone quiet. Not completely silent, but that specific hush when something interesting was happening. Derek Matthews had just been rejected. Publicly. "Did she just—" Tyler started. "Shut up!" Derek snapped. His jaw was tight, his hands clenched. Nobody walked away from Derek Matthews. Nobody. Emma felt the weight of the attention all the way to her locker. She'd made a mistake. She should have played along, been polite. Maybe flirted a little before making an excuse. Now, she'd made an enemy. And she could feel it in the way conversations stopped when she passed. The way eyes followed her down the hall. Madison Chen called that night, Emma's best friend from California. The only person who really knew what the last year had been like. "How's Texas?" Madison asked. "Big," Emma replied, falling back onto her bed. "Everything's bigger here, including the egos." She told Madison about Derek, about the cafeteria incident. Madison's silence on the other end spoke volumes. "Em, be careful. Guys like that, they don't handle rejection well." "I can take care of myself," Emma said, glancing at her father's black belt hanging on her closet door. "Karate doesn't help when you're fighting an entire social system," Madison warned. "Just don't be a hero, okay?" Emma promised. But they both knew she was lying. The harassment started small. Tuesday morning, Emma found her locker decorated with red spray paint. "Stuck-up bitch" in large. Dripping letters. Students gathered around, phones out, recording her reaction. Emma calmly opened her locker, pulled out some paper towels from her bag, and began cleaning it off. No tears, no anger, nothing for them to post about. "Maintenance will handle that," said Assistant Principal Hayes, finally arriving after the crowd had gotten their fill. "It's fine. I've got it," Emma replied, scrubbing harder. "Do you know who did this?" Emma did. The smirk on Derek's face as he watched from across the hall told her everything. But she also knew how this worked. Star quarterback versus new girl nobody. "No, sir. Probably just a prank." Hayes looked relieved. "Well, let me know if there are any more incidents." Wednesday brought new challenges. Emma's homework disappeared from her backpack during PE. Her chair in chemistry had super glue on it, caught just in time by another student's warning. Someone had posted a fake Instagram account in her name, filled with photoshopped pictures and nasty comments about other students. Still, Emma didn't react. She documented everything in a small notebook, took screenshots, saved evidence. Her father had taught her that too. "Information is ammunition," he used to say. Never fire until you have a clear shot. Derek was getting frustrated. Thursday's football practice was brutal. He hit harder than necessary, threw with too much force, barked at teammates who'd done nothing wrong. "Matthews, what the hell is wrong with you?" Coach Williams shouted after Derek laid out his own running back during a drill. "Nothing, coach, just focused." But he wasn't focused. He was angry. The new girl was supposed to break by now. They always did. A little pressure, a little humiliation, and they'd come crawling to him, begging to be friends, to be accepted, to be left alone. He'd generously forgive them, maybe take them to a party, definitely take them to his car after. It was a system that had worked since freshman year. Emma Collins was ruining his system. Friday was game day, which meant the harassment took a break. Derek had bigger things to focus on. Scouts from University of Texas were in the stands. His father sat in the VIP section, arms crossed, expecting perfection. Marcus Matthews didn't accept anything less from his son. Emma went to the game, not because she wanted to, but because her mother had started asking questions about why she spent every evening at home. "You need to make friends, sweetheart," her mother said, trying so hard to pretend everything was normal. "Your father would want you to be happy." So Emma sat in the bleachers, surrounded by hundreds of screaming students, and watched Derek play the worst game of his career. 3 interceptions, 2 fumbles. By the fourth quarter, the crowd had turned from cheering to muttering. She didn't realize Derek would blame her for it. Saturday morning, Emma woke to find her mother standing in the driveway, staring at their car. All 4 tires had been slashed. "Who would do this?" her mother asked, voice shaking. Emma knew. The security camera on their garage was spray-painted black. The neighbors' cameras mysteriously glitched during the night. Even the message carved into the driver's side door, "Watch your back," would lead nowhere. Probably random vandalism, Emma lied. "I'll call the police." The officer who came out seemed more annoyed than concerned. "No cameras caught anything. No witnesses. Not much we can do. File an insurance claim." Emma's mother couldn't afford the deductible. They'd be taking the bus for a while. Monday morning on the bus was exactly what Derek had planned. Emma sat alone, trying to ignore Tyler and Brandon in the back seats. Their comments started low, building louder as more football players joined in. "Heard your daddy died crying like a bitch. Maybe that's why you're so stuck up. No man to teach you respect. Bet we could teach her some respect." Emma's hands gripped her backpack straps. Her breathing changed, deeper, controlled. The same breathing her father had drilled into her. "Center yourself, find your balance. Never fight angry." An elderly woman across the aisle caught Emma's eye and mouthed, "You okay?" Emma nodded, forcing her hands to relax. Not here. Not on a moving bus full of witnesses. That's what they wanted, for her to lose control, to give them an excuse. She made it to school, but the day was far from over. Her locker had new decorations, newspaper clippings about her father's accident, his obituary, photos from the crash scene that must have taken real effort to find. A note was taped in the center, "Maybe you'll join Daddy soon." Emma's hands shook as she pulled down the papers. This wasn't about rejection anymore. This was about cruelty. They'd crossed a line, and they knew it. "Jesus, that's messed up," said a voice behind her. Emma turned to find Sarah Miller, a quiet girl from her English class. Sarah looked around nervously before leaning closer. "Be careful," Sarah whispered. Derek, he's done this before. To me. Freshman year. What happened? Sarah's eyes filled with tears. I said no. He didn't like that. The school covered it up. His dad donated a new scoreboard the next week. She pulled up her sleeve, showing faint scars. I tried to, after everything. I'm in therapy now. Emma felt rage building in her chest. How many others? At least 5 that I know of. But nobody talks about it. He's Derek Matthews. That night, Emma trained in her garage. The heavy bag swung with each strike, her body remembering years of practice. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. Karate is not about violence, Emma. It's about discipline, protection. You never throw the first punch. But what if they keep pushing? Dad? Then you make sure they can't throw a second one. Her mother found her there at midnight, sweat dripping, knuckles raw. You're training again, her mother said. Not a question. Just exercise, Mom. Her mother stepped closer, seeing the newspaper clippings Emma had saved in a box, the cruel note, the evidence notebook. Baby, what's happening at school? Nothing I can't handle. Emma, I'm fine. Mom, really. But they both knew she was lying. Tuesday brought a new level of boldness. Derek cornered her between classes, his crew forming a wall around them. You cost me my scholarship, he hissed. Scouts said I looked distracted, unfocused. That's not my problem, Emma said, trying to push past. Derek grabbed her arm, fingers digging in hard enough to bruise. Everything about you is my problem. You're done here. Gone. One way or another. Emma looked at his hand on her arm, then up at his face. For just a moment, he saw something in her eyes that made him let go. Something dangerous. Something waiting. Touch me again, she said quietly, and you'll regret it. Derek laughed, but it sounded forced. Is that a threat? It's a promise. She walked away, leaving Derek and his crew standing there. But she heard Tyler's comment, Dude, did you see her eyes? That was some psycho shit. Wednesday night, Sarah Miller called Emma's cell. Don't come to school tomorrow, Sarah said, voice urgent. Please. What's wrong? I heard them in the locker room. They're planning something big. Derek's dad threatened to send him to military school if he doesn't get his act together. He's blaming you for everything. Sarah, I can't keep running. This isn't about being brave. They want to hurt you. Really hurt you. Like they did to me. Emma stared at her father's photo on her nightstand. Thank you for warning me. But I'm done being afraid. Thursday morning came gray and drizzling. Emma dressed carefully, choosing jeans and a white dress her father had bought her for her 16th birthday. The last gift he'd ever given her. She needed his strength today. The main hallway was suspiciously crowded for 7:45 in the morning. Students lined both sides. Phones already out. They knew something was coming. Emma walked through them like she was walking to her execution. She could see Derek at the far end. His crew spread out to cut off escape routes. The teachers were nowhere to be seen. Finally, Derek announced loudly, the princess graces us with her presence. Emma stopped 20 feet away. What do you want, Derek? What I want. He stepped closer. I want my life back. I want my scholarship back. I want you gone. Then you're going to be disappointed. The crowd murmured. Someone whispered. She's got balls. Derek's face flushed red. You think you're tough. Think Daddy's little karate lessons make you special. Emma's jaw tightened at the mention of her father. "Leave my father out of this." "Why, he's dead. He can't protect you." Derek was close now, close enough that she could smell his cologne mixed with sweat. "Heard he died like a coward, probably running away, just like you always do." "My father was a hero," Emma said, voice steady despite the rage building inside her. "Yeah, then where is he now?" Emma turned to walk away. She'd almost made it past him when his hand shot out, grabbing her shoulder hard, spinning her around. She stumbled, catching herself against the lockers. "I'm not done with you," Derek snarled. That's when it happened. His hands grabbed the collar of her dress. "Let's see what you're hiding under this little good girl act." The sound of ripping fabric filled the hallway. Her dress tore from shoulder to waist, white fabric splitting like paper. The crowd gasped. Someone screamed. Phones focused on her exposed sports bra, her humiliation, her moment of ultimate vulnerability. But Emma didn't cry. She didn't cover herself. She didn't run. Instead, her entire body changed. Her stance shifted. Weight balanced perfectly on both feet. Her breathing slowed to match her heartbeat. Her hands rose into position, and everyone close enough could see the calluses. The scarred knuckles of someone who'd spent years hitting things harder than human flesh. "My father?" she said, voice carrying clear across the silent hallway. "Was a United States Marine. He served 3 tours in Afghanistan. He saved 19 lives in combat, and he taught me that violence is always the last resort." Derek laughed, but it sounded nervous now. "So what? You're going to karate chop me?" Emma's eyes met his. "No, I'm going to give you one chance to walk away." The crowd held its breath. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Derek's pride made the decision for him. He lunged forward, hands reaching for her again. Time slowed down. Emma pivoted on her left foot, her right hand sweeping up in a perfect arc. The edge of her hand connected with the side of Derek's neck in a textbook karate chop, precise as a surgeon's blade. His eyes went wide with shock, then confusion, then nothing as his nervous system short-circuited. Derek Matthews, star quarterback, king of Westfield High, dropped like a marionette with its strings cut. His body hit the floor with a meaty thud that echoed off the lockers. Silence. Then, chaos. Tyler roared and charged forward. Brandon came from the other side. They'd made the same mistake Derek had, assuming the quiet girl with the torn dress was a victim. Emma dropped into a low stance, waiting. Tyler reached her first, throwing a wild haymaker that would have knocked out most people. Emma ducked under it, grabbed his wrist, and used his momentum to flip him over her hip. He crashed into a water fountain with a crack that meant either the fountain or his ribs were broken. Brandon tried to grab her from behind. She drove an elbow into his solar plexus, spun, and swept his legs. He joined Tyler on the floor, gasping for air that wouldn't come. 3 seconds. 3 boys down. 200 witnesses. Emma stood in the center of the hallway, her torn dress hanging off one shoulder, breathing steady, hands still raised. She looked at the crowd, many of whom had tormented her for weeks. "Anyone else?" she asked quietly. Nobody moved. Sirens wailed in the distance. Someone had finally called for help. But Emma wasn't running. She wasn't hiding. She stood over Derek's unconscious form, waiting, because her father had taught her something else, something she'd never forgotten: when you fight, Emma, You fight to end it, not to win to end it.
As the principal and security guards finally pushed through the crowd, as the paramedics rushed to check on Derek and his friends, as the police officers approached with hands on their weapons, Emma raised her hands slowly and said the words that would change everything. I was defending myself. Check every camera. Check every phone. I have 3 weeks of documentation, and I want to press charges. The hallway erupted. Students shouting. Teachers finally appearing. Chaos everywhere. But in that moment, standing in her torn dress with 3 bullies at her feet, Emma Collins wasn't the new girl anymore. She was the girl who fought back, and everyone at Westfield High would remember it. The principal's office had never been this crowded. Emma sat in the center chair, still wearing her torn dress with a blanket around her shoulders. Her mother clutched her hand, tears streaming down her face. On the other side sat the Matthews family. Derek's father Marcus in his $1,000 suit. His mother Patricia with her pearls and perfect makeup. And their lawyer, who'd arrived within 10 minutes of the incident. Derek himself was in the hospital with a mild concussion. Tyler had 3 cracked ribs. Brandon was fine, but shaken. All 3 sets of parents were threatening lawsuits. This is assault, Marcus Matthews thundered, pointing at Emma. That girl attacked my son unprovoked. We have witnesses. Principal Green shifted uncomfortably. Mr. Matthews, we have over 50 videos from different angles. They all show Derek initiating physical contact. After weeks of her provoking him, Patricia Matthews interjected. This child has been disrupting Derek's education, affecting his performance, destroying his future. Emma's mother finally spoke, her voice shaking with rage. Your son tore my daughter's dress off in front of the entire school. He's been harassing her for weeks. And you're worried about his future. Alleged harassment, the Matthews lawyer corrected. We've seen no proof of any prior incidents. That's when Emma reached into her backpack and pulled out a thick folder. She placed it on Principal Green's desk with a solid thump. 3 weeks of documentation, she said calmly. Photos of my vandalized locker, screenshots of fake social media accounts, recordings of threats on the bus, the newspaper clippings about my dead father that were taped to my locker, the receipt for 4 slashed tires, campus security footage that mysteriously disappeared. Should I continue? The room went silent. Principal Green opened the folder, his face growing paler with each page. There's more, Emma continued. Sarah Miller is waiting outside. She has her own folder from freshman year. So do Katie Johnson, Maria Santos, Jennifer Wu, and Ashley Thompson, all victims of Derek Matthews, all silenced by this school. Marcus Matthews stood up so fast his chair fell backward. This is ridiculous. We're not listening to this witch hunt. He turned to Principal Green. We donate $50,000 a year to this school. The Matthews Athletic Center is named after my father. You know what needs to happen here. Principal Green looked at the folder, then at Emma, then at the Matthews family. For the first time in his career, he made the right choice. Mr. Matthews, I think you should leave. The police are reviewing the footage now. They'll determine if charges should be filed. This isn't over, Marcus snarled. You'll be hearing from our lawyers, all of you. As they stormed out, Patricia Matthews paused at the door. She looked back at Emma with pure hatred. You've ruined a good boy's life. Emma met her gaze steadily. No, ma'am. He ruined it himself. I just stopped him from ruining anyone else's. The next 2 hours were a blur. Police officers interviewed Emma, her mother, witnesses. The videos were collected and reviewed. Sarah Miller came in and gave her statement. Hands shaking,
but voice strong. Then Katie, then Maria, then Jennifer, then Ashley. Each story was worse than the last. Parties where drinks were spiked. Bathroom corners where escapes were blocked. Cars where no was ignored. Years of systematic predation, covered up with money and threats. Detective Rodriguez, a woman with kind eyes and steel in her voice, took every statement personally. "Why didn't any of you come forward before?" Sarah laughed bitterly. "Have you seen his family? His father owns half the businesses in town. My parents work for one of them. Katie's dad is a coach here. We all had something to lose." "What changed?" the detective asked. Every girl looked at Emma. "She fought back," Ashley said simply, "in front of everyone. She showed us it was possible." By afternoon, the story had exploded beyond Westfield High. Videos of the confrontation were viral, but not in the way Derek might have hoped. The comments sections were filled with support for Emma, outrage at the school, demands for investigation. "Girl destroys bully who ripped her dress" had 10 million views in 6 hours. News vans appeared in the parking lot. Hatch Justice for Emma started trending. Other victims from other schools began sharing their own stories. The Matthews family hired a crisis management firm, but it was too late. The dam had broken. That evening, Emma sat on her porch with her mother, watching the sun set. Her phone hadn't stopped buzzing with messages of support, interview requests, and legal offers. "Your father would be proud," her mother said softly. Emma touched the bruises on her arm where Derek had grabbed her. "I tried to walk away. Mom, I tried so hard to do it the right way." "I know, baby. Sometimes the right way isn't enough." A car pulled up to their house. Emma tensed, but relaxed when she saw who got out. Coach Williams, looking older than his years, walked up their driveway. "Miss Collins," he said, removing his baseball cap, "I owe you an apology." Emma said nothing, waiting. "I knew," he continued, voice thick with shame. "I knew what Derek was doing, what he'd done before. I told myself it wasn't my problem. Told myself boys will be boys. I was wrong." "Yes," Emma agreed. "You were. I've submitted my resignation, effective immediately. I'll be cooperating fully with the investigation." He looked at her torn dress, still visible under the jacket she wore. "I'm sorry I wasn't the adult you needed me to be." He left without another word. Emma watched him go, feeling neither satisfaction nor sympathy. Just tired. The next morning, Westfield High was a different place. Derek's crew walked the halls like ghosts, heads down, avoiding eye contact. The football team was in chaos, with their quarterback suspended and their coach gone. But something else had changed too. Girls walked taller. They moved in groups, talking openly about things that had been whispered before. A table appeared in the cafeteria with signs, "You're not alone," and "We believe you." Emma found her locker decorated again, but differently this time. Flowers, notes of support, a photo of her father in his Marine uniform with "Hero's Daughter" written beneath it. "Emma." She turned to find a group of freshman girls, eyes wide with something between fear and hope. "Is it true you're starting a self-defense class?" one asked. Emma hadn't been, but looking at their faces, she made a decision. "Yes, Thursdays after school, Gym B. Can anyone join? Anyone who wants to learn to protect themselves. By Thursday." Gym B was packed, not just with girls, but boys too.
siblings of victims, friends who wished they'd done more, even some teachers who admitted they'd failed their students. Emma stood in front of them in her GI, her father's black belt tied around her waist. She'd thought about what to say, how to start. But when she saw their faces, scared, determined, angry, hopeful, she knew. "My father taught me that violence is never the first answer," she began. "But sometimes, when every other option has been taken from you, when the system meant to protect you fails, when nobody will listen, sometimes you have to be your own hero." She taught them blocks first, defense before offense, how to break a grip, how to create distance, how to yell for help in a way that gets attention. But more than the physical moves, she taught them to trust their instincts, to set boundaries, to support each other. "The most powerful thing you can do," she said during a water break, "is refuse to be silent. They count on our silence, our shame, our fear. But we're done being quiet." 2 weeks later, the investigation concluded. Derek Matthews was charged with assault, sexual harassment, and criminal intimidation. The other victims' cases were reopened. The school board launched a full inquiry into the cover-ups. Marcus Matthews tried to use his influence, his money, his connections. But the world had changed. Companies pulled sponsorships. The Matthews Athletic Center was renamed. His business partners distanced themselves. Within a month, the family announced they were moving to another state, the night before Derek's court hearing. Sarah Miller called Emma. "I wanted to thank you," Sarah said, "not just for standing up to him, but for showing me I could stand up too." "You already had the strength," Emma replied. "You warned me. You helped the other girls. You survived. I'm going to testify tomorrow." "You don't have to." "Yes," Sarah said firmly. "I do. We all do." The courtroom was packed. Derek, no longer the golden boy, sat with his head down as victim after victim testified. His lawyer tried to paint him as a good kid who made mistakes. But the evidence was overwhelming. When it was Emma's turn, she walked to the witness stand with her head high. She told her story clearly, calmly, without embellishment. She talked about the harassment, the escalation, the final assault. "He tore my dress," she said, looking directly at Derek. "He tried to humiliate me, to break me, but my father taught me that being broken isn't about what happens to you. It's about whether you let it stop you from standing back up." Derek was found guilty on all charges, sentenced to probation, community service, mandatory therapy, and expelled from school. He would never play football again. His father's money couldn't buy him a future anymore. As they left the courthouse, Emma's mother asked, "Do you feel like you won?" Emma thought about it. "I feel like I survived, and I helped others survive. Maybe that's what winning looks like." The self-defense classes continued. They moved to a larger gym, brought in more instructors. Emma trained alongside professional teachers, learning to teach as well as fight. Universities offered her scholarships, not for athletics, but for leadership, for courage, for making a difference. On the 1-year anniversary of the hallway incident, Westfield High held an assembly. Emma was invited to speak. She stood before the entire student body, no longer the new girl, no longer the victim, but not quite a hero either, just a survivor who refused to be silent. "A year ago, I was nobody," she began. "Just another transfer student trying to disappear. I thought if I was quiet enough, small enough, careful enough, I could avoid trouble. I was wrong." She looked out at the sea of faces, seeing herself in so many of them.
Predators don't choose victims based on what we do or don't do.
They choose based on who they think won't fight back, who won't be believed, who can be silenced. She paused. They chose wrong with me, and they chose wrong with every survivor who's spoken up since. The auditorium was silent, hanging on every word. I'm not here to tell you violence is the answer. It's not. But I am here to tell you that your safety, your body, your dignity, these are worth defending. And if someone tries to take them from you, you have every right to stop them. She talked about her father then, about the Marine who taught her to fight, but hoped she'd never have to, about losing him and finding strength she didn't know she had, about the difference between being strong and being silent. We've started something here, she concluded. Not just self-defense classes or new policies or awareness campaigns. We've started a change in culture, where victims become survivors, where survivors become voices, where voices become change. The applause was deafening, but Emma wasn't finished. To those still suffering in silence, know this: you are not alone. You are not weak. And when you're ready, we'll be here, all of us who've walked this path before you, because that's what we do now. We stand together, we speak truth, and we never, ever go back to being silent. As she left the stage, Emma passed the memorial wall they'd created, photos of all the survivors who'd come forward, not just from Westfield, but from schools across the country. The ripple effect of one girl who refused to be broken. At the bottom of the wall, a plaque read, "In memory of all those who suffered in silence, in honor of those who found their voice, in hope that no one will have to fight alone again." That evening, Emma visited her father's grave. She placed her newest belt, now a second-degree black belt, on his headstone. "You taught me to never start a fight, Dad," she said softly, "but you also taught me to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. I hope I made you proud." The wind rustled through the trees, and for just a moment, Emma could swear she heard his voice. "You were always my hero. Baby girl, now you're theirs too." As she walked back to her car, Emma's phone buzzed. Another girl from another school, asking for help starting their own self-defense program. Emma smiled and typed back, "Let's talk. You're not alone." Because that was the real victory. Not the viral video, or the court case, or the justice served. It was the network of survivors who refused to let anyone else suffer in silence. It was the culture that shifted from protecting predators to protecting each other. It was proof that sometimes one person standing up can inspire hundreds to rise. Emma drove home to find her mother cooking dinner and laughing on the phone with Madison, who was flying in next week to help teach a seminar. Their small house was filled with trophies from tournaments, thank you letters from girls who'd found their strength, and photos of Emma teaching packed classes. "Hungry?" her mother asked. "Starving," Emma admitted, as they sat down to eat. Her mother said, "I never thanked you." "For what?" "For not letting them break you. For showing me that we're stronger than we think. For becoming the woman your father always knew you could be." Emma reached across the table and squeezed her mother's hand. "We survived together, Mom. That's what matters." Later that night, Emma sat in her room, looking at the black belt her father had earned through years of discipline and dedication. Next to it sat her own belt, earned through surviving what no teenager should have to face. Tomorrow, she would teach another class, answer more emails,
help more survivors find their voice. The work would never really be done. But tonight, she allowed herself one moment of peace, one moment to acknowledge that the shy new girl who'd walked into Westfield High was gone, replaced by something stronger. Not unbreakable, she'd learned that everyone could break, but able to rebuild, able to stand, able to fight, and most importantly, able to teach others to do the same. The text on her phone lit up. Sarah Miller. Coffee tomorrow before class. I want to talk about starting a mentorship program. Emma smiled and typed back, absolutely. We're just getting started. Because that was the truth. The viral video was just the beginning. The real work, changing culture, protecting the vulnerable, building a community of survivors and allies, that work would take years, maybe decades. But Emma Collins, the girl who'd been pushed too far and pushed back, was ready for it. After all, her father had taught her well, once you start a fight for justice, you don't stop until it's finished. And this fight was far from over. The next morning, Emma woke to find a package on her doorstep. Inside was a Marine Corps flag and a note, "Your father served with me in Afghanistan. Heard what you did. He would say what I'm saying now. Semper Fi. Marine's daughter. The fight for justice never ends." Emma hung the flag in the gym where she taught. A reminder that courage runs in the blood. That some battles are worth fighting. And that her father's legacy lived on through every girl who learned to say no and mean it, standing before a room of young Marines at Camp Pendleton. Emma felt her father's presence stronger than ever. These were his brothers and sisters in arms, and now they were listening to his daughter teach them about a different kind of battle. "My father taught me to fight with honor," she told them. "But he also taught me that the greatest warriors are those who protect others. Today, that means standing up for your fellow service members. It means breaking the code of silence. It means being the leader who says, 'This ends with me.'" After her speech, a female sergeant approached her, tears in her eyes. "I wish someone like you had existed when I was a recruit. Thank you for being the voice we needed." Emma thought of her father, of Derek Matthews, of all the battles fought and yet to fight. The war against predators and silence would never truly end. But now, she wasn't fighting alone. She had an army,